Arsenal win back possession, and it's broken nicely to Cazorla, 30 metres from goal, plays it to the edge of the area. Alexis Sanchez goes for goal and scores. That's a brilliant goal from Alexis Sanchez. He's been Arsenal's star man this season, and maybe now they're going to get the ball.
Hello and welcome to Gooners in USA. This is Andy.
This is welcome to the funeral. Whose idea was it, by the way? We were going to do the podcast on Monday night, and somebody decided, let's wait till Tuesday night and do it, because that way we can wrap up the Watford game as well and have a twofer.
Yes.
And went from what should have been a very happy celebratory pod to the garbage that you're about to experience.
I know. I mean, if we had done it that way, we could have just lumped in the inevitable loss to Chelsea at the weekend to the loss to Watford.
Yeah, you could have taken one shit instead of two different
It would have just been an hour of people listening to two grown men cry the whole time.
So let's try to compartmentalize today, because we do have some highlights to discuss, and I'm going to do my best to try to save my misery for the second half of the pod and get through the first half. But this is Gooners in the USA. We have two American citizens talking about the Arsenal, and that was not the case last week.
It was not.
Big news.
Huge news. You know, you got to get in before Trump sets a worldwide ban.
Yeah, you literally snuck in under the wire there.
I did. I left until the last minute.
We now have 1.5 Americans and a half Brit that are hosting this show. So congratulations! On a serious note, that's an amazing accomplishment. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Quite a year. Happy to have you. Quite a year for you, Andy. You started off with the Arsenal in California.
Yep.
Got to do that. You impregnated a woman, which thankfully was your wife.
Yep.
That always works out better than the alternative.
It does.
You impregnated her with your Gooner seed, and now you've become an American citizen at last. And let's not forget the most important moment of your year, which was when you met me and created the fastest growing Arsenal podcast in either one of our houses.
Oh, absolutely.
Growing like leaps and bounds in our houses.
Yeah.
50% of my family now listens to the podcast.
My wife
if you include me.
My wife has still not listened to it.
My wife has listened to it, but only when she's extremely drunk, so she doesn't really remember it and have any say in the matter.
Now, did you force her to listen to it when she was extremely drunk?
I mean, in the sense that, it was echoing throughout the entire house. I didn't hold her down, if that's what you're trying to get at.
My mother-in-law has listened to more podcasts of us than my wife has.
That's hot.
And I said to my wife, I said, ooh, there's a lot of dick jokes.
And she said, well, that'll be perfect then.
Yeah, she loves a good dick joke.
Yeah, so speaking of which, well, not really speaking of which, but we are...
Speaking of dicks.
Speaking of dicks, we are Gits in the USA. It was pointed out by our guest last week, AJ. We've been kind of using the hashtag of GI USA, but I think it's a little bit more appropriate that we start using Gooners in the USA, Git USA, because it really kind of describes us a little bit better. And for those people, probably mostly in America, who don't know the definition of a git is a term of insult with origins in British English, denoting an unpleasant, silly, incompetent, stupid, annoying, senile, elderly, or childish person. As a mild oath, it is roughly on par with prat and marginally less pejorative than Burke, which is one that I actually am not familiar with.
I'm not familiar with that either.
Yeah, well, at least we're not being Burks in the USA. But typically a good-natured admonition with a strong implication of familiarity. Git is more severe than twit or idiot, but less severe than wanker, arsehole, or twat when offense is attended. So,
see, now in England we'd say twat.
Twat. Yeah, well, that just shows my now you're not allowed to say that anymore. Or you can say that half the time.
I suppose. Oh, God, Gooner's just mad.
Gooner doesn't like when I mispronounce insults from English. But anyway, full 90. Thank you for returning the favor. I went on their podcast on Saturday night after the FA Cup game, so I at least got to do one happy podcast. And thanks to Mario and AJ for being good hosts. I enjoyed doing their pod and had some fun. And if you haven't listened to their podcast yet, please have a listen. Full 90 Gooner.
Yeah, I didn't get to listen to it yet, Mike, obviously with all my travels and what have you, but I definitely am going to tune into that. It's weird this week that we don't have a guest because we've had a couple weeks in a row now where it's just been guest on guest on guest.
Probably guest on guest action. But yeah, we probably are better off that way because we don't want to bring anyone into our misery. But before we get to the misery, and in lieu of our host question this week, we've got so much to get to that let's just get to Southampton and
let's do it.
Try to cheer ourselves up.
Jump right in.
All right, the lineup, a lot of changes. I think 10 changes to that lineup, and obviously with the hindsight, we can look at how those changes went. But before the game, did you have a particular feeling about all those changes and what you felt?
No, I really liked the lineup. I thought that we had made changes aplenty, but I felt like we didn't field a weakened side. It felt like all the changes that were made, you were very comfortable, and you view it, the starting 11, and you think, all right, this is a really strong team. And I was really happy to see that we fielded 6 British players as well.
Now, is that 6, like, including all the different, like, hyphenated last names, or is that 6 plus the extra?
No, it's 6 including.
Does that include Maitland and Niles, or does that include just Maitland?
He's not like Holland and Oates.
Holland and Oates. That famous Dutch folk duo.
Holland Oates.
Holland.
No, his first name is Holland. His last name is Oates.
I think a lot of people actually grew up thinking that was the case. I used to think Joan Jett was 2 guys named Joe and Jet. I'm like, I love this song, but it kind of sounds like a chick. But hey. Hey,
is that part of the senile or stupid part of Git?
That just is. I think that makes me a Burke. Apparently, but. Yeah, I mean, I saw that lineup. I said, okay, whoa, this kind of is like an EFL Cup lineup in the sense that it shows our depth because, all of these 10 changes just about our quality players who I'm comfortable with starting a game. But is it going to be too mixed and matched? Is it going to be too, is the team just not going to have enough synergy to, and experience together to pull this off? And then I saw the Southampton lineup and, dude, I felt much better about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, they whether it was the EFL Cup in midweek, whether it was anything, they just decided to throw this game, basically.
Well, I don't even think that, even before I saw the Southampton lineup, I wasn't nervous because we had just such quality players throughout the squad. But then when, you combined with the fact that Southampton pretty much played their B squad outside of a few players.
Plus injuries on defense already. I mean, the whole game was going to come down to whether we could put pressure on just a horrible back four, an understrength and, youthful back four. Mm-hmm. That was going to be the whole thing. And pretty much right off the bat, 15 minutes in, it starts. Ainsley Maitland-Niles conservatively finds Lucas. Amazing flick on, just a perfect touch from Lucas. Kind of almost Giroud-esque in the sense that, just off the side of his foot, flicks it on, and welcome back, Welbeck, man. Beautiful toe poke chip. Such a feel-good moment for me.
Yeah, God damn it. I've missed Danny Boy. I really have. He's just such a player. He can score goals. He comes up in games when we need him, and it's just great to see him back. And as we saw today, we're not rushing him back either. Even though he's that type of player that could have probably come on today and made a big change in that game or put a big impact on it, I'm glad to see that we are slowly bringing him back in, and it's nice to see him back on the pitch.
Yeah, and Wenger said so much in his pregame press conferences that we're not going to rush him back. We have to be very careful with him. It's easy to fall into this whole he's right back where he was. Let's play him 75 minutes a game, but you really can't. And with our depth at the wing, you don't have to.
Right.
You really don't have to. So However, he's a little salty, a little salt bay, which is I'm old, okay, so I don't get this, but there's it's obviously broken the internet already, but there's some Turkish chef that salts his meats, and Welbeck gave him a shout out after both of his goals. And, my old ass thought he was walking like an Egyptian on the sideline. I don't know why, maybe because he misses El Neni, but like I said, I'm old AF. So,
yeah, I thought he was doing a little teapot. So
you're not the only one that thought that.
Yeah, I know.
So apparently only the cool kids who are not gits understood what he was doing, but that may or may not be the best thing that ever happened to that chef. 22nd minute, 7 minutes later, Ox goes route one from his new position. It seems like we might be seeing him in for a little while. If he didn't get injured in today's game, which is a possibility, but goes route one, and once again, Welbeck latches onto the end of it, and the thing that I just keep forgetting about Welbeck every time he's out for 9 months. I mean, God damn it, how do I keep doing that? You just knew it was going to be in the back of the net as soon as he took his first touch and kept it under control. You knew. I mean, and even though he went 5-hole through the legs of Southampton to get it in there, you just know it's going in because the guy can fucking finish.
He absolutely can, and he really sometimes when you watch him play, he puts balls into the back of the net, and you just think, how the hell did he get that off his foot so quickly? The goal was absolutely sublime, but let's give it up for the Ox to create that moment. He had an unbelievable game, especially being plunged into a position that we really haven't seen him play all too much.
You think he wants to be in that position? I mean, do you think he's asking for that on the training ground or making a play for it?
He seems like the type of player that will play wherever he can just to get playing time. Unlike Theo, who says, I only want to play up front, and then backtracks and says, okay, I'll play out on the wing because I see I'm not getting the playing time. But I feel like the Ox is the type of player, probably like Ramsey, who's just like, I don't care where I need to go, just put me somewhere and I'll do my best.
Yeah. Yeah, but he picked out the perfect pass. It was a Xhaka-esque kind of long pass, which is good because we don't have the services of Xhaka for a little while longer. Speaking of Theo, again, drifting into the middle from the wing, ball squirts free, and he just wanted it more than the defender. This is where it just became clear that, the inexperience at the back for Southampton, just to not know where the defenders are or where the other team's attackers are, and Theo just to stick his foot in there behind him. It's just a poacher's goal, a great aggressive goal from Theo, and the type of thing that we really needed at that moment. Yeah,
it was a poacher's goal for sure. I don't think Theo of last season would have put his foot in for that one. I think that mentally he wouldn't have been strong enough because you could tell that there were certain challenges last season he wouldn't go in on because
wasn't there one play specifically where it was a long ball down the right flank that he just kind of
just jumped over.
Yeah,
but I think now he's seen himself get through the majority of this season fit. He's more likely to go in on some of those challenges, and so going in on that 50-50 is a beautiful goal. I don't think we would have seen that from Theo last year, but you can tell he's got a ton of confidence this year, and like I said, I don't think he's thinking too much about that injury in the back of his mind. So really nice to see him get that Hattie. Excellent work, Theo.
Good stuff. Man, this is another incredible development in your year is the turnaround on Theo. But
no, he still sucks a bag, but
but he's not useless though. Alexis comes in the game at 63 minutes. Now, first of all, I know it is very controversial about him coming in at all in a game that was 3-0 and clearly by that point won. So much so that you felt so strongly that you tweeted about it at the moment. But almost as surprising is the fact that it came before the 70th minute. So do we have a situation where he basically just said, Steve, I'm going in the game and you're not going to stop me?
Oh yeah, Poldy's a pushover. I mean, I guarantee
he wasn't on the field, but it doesn't, when he lost his hair, it seems like he lost his.
I guarantee you today, Sanchez walked over to Theo at halftime and just said, hey, go tell Boldy you're on. And that's why he got subbed up.
Yeah, because that was another. We'll get to that, but that was another un-Wenger-like move for sure.
I didn't like seeing Sanchez come on. I just, like you said, we're 3-0 up. The game is over, and this is just they're a young Southampton side. And not saying anyone goes out to hurt other players, but when you're a young player, you can sometimes be brash with your challenges. And so, luckily, now in hindsight, we see that he didn't get injured, so there was no risk. But I don't like when we're up 3-0. It just doesn't seem smart to me that you bring on a player of his caliber and someone that we rely on so heavily, because it just takes one knock. And especially at Arsenal, a 2-week injury is 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So I wasn't happy about it. I just don't see the reason for it. Now, bringing Danny off, absolutely, but we had to have had other options.
Yeah, I mean the Sanchez. I mean, there's a lot more that can go wrong than can go right there. Although it has to be said that it went just about as right as it possibly could have gone.
Absolutely. I mean, he
from the
stamped
time that he came in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he was incredible when he came on, and obviously with the last 2 goals, he put his stamp on the match. But just a stupid risk.
Yeah, and I kind of likened it on Full 90. I said that you almost get the sense that he's like a pierced ear, in the sense that if you don't put an earring in there, I've heard. I don't have any piercings myself, but if you don't put an earring in there for a specific period of time, it closes up, and you have to re-pierce the ear. And it's almost like he has to have that that 30 to 60 to 90 minutes of just game action that you can't replicate anywhere else but during a game,
right,
or he's just going to completely shut down as a player. So, I mean, look, as long as he can physically make it through, but I mean, he's just been playing 12 months a year, nonstop, full bore. You would like to see him get a break when it's reasonable to, and this probably would have been a good time.
Seriously. I mean, if anyone deserves a break in our squad, it's definitely him. But, hey, man, we're on to the next round.
It worked, yeah. And Alexis basically handed Theo his hat trick. I mean, on the last 2 goals with just kind of dancing down the baseline, which we saw again in the Watford game. But I mean, his work kind of keeping the ball from going out along the end line and getting it across to somebody is a new part of his game that is just on top of all the other parts of his game. He's just phenomenal. The guy continues to amaze me.
This is such a sad podcast today, Mike.
Why? Because we're headed for a cliff?
Well, yeah, you're just not your jovial self, and I'm sitting here bummed. And
well, look, if we started doing this podcast under the expectation that we were never going to lose a game and never have anything negative to say, then I mean, I'd say it's worked out pretty well for us so far. But they're going to. Mama told me there'd be days like this, Andy. There'd be days like this. My mama said so.
As bad as the day is for us, Mike, it's Joey Murphy's birthday today. So not only did he have his birthday,
it's a horrible day to turn 60.
The Arsenal just absolutely just shit the bed for him. So, happy birthday, Joey, long-time listener.
Happy fucking birthday, Joey.
Yeah,
thanks. Some final thoughts from Southampton. 4 players with Opta ratings 9 or above. Well, or with 8.7 or above. Welbeck, 9.6. Theo, 9.5. Ox, 9.0 without scoring a single goal. That's pretty hard to do. And Lucas, 8.7. I feel like I probably know, but who's your man of the match?
Easily Danny. Coming back from the injury, having 2 goals and an assist. He just played absolutely excellent. And for me, he's man of the match. Theo, awesome. Hat trick, great. But that's what we expect of the Ballon d'Or winner of 2017-18. So, you got to hand out prizes to everyone in second place, and that's Danny.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to give it to Lucas because just for his intensity and work rate off the ball, his impact was felt in many, many ways, and I just caught my eye making runs across from where the ball was on the field just multiple times where I just, was amazed how fast he was running, how well his positioning was, and I think he's really starting to push for a spot, just along with Welbeck, along with Ox. So, maybe a couple more injuries and we can get all these guys on the field. That'll be great, huh?
Seriously.
And Theo's post-game, last thing about Theo, his post-game interview with Welbeck I saw, this is the second interview in a row that I've seen from Theo. The first one was after the Man City game. He did an interview with with Arlo, I believe, and it was just struck by his maturity. I mean, athletes know how to talk to the press a lot of the time, but at a time where people are blaming referees and blaming this, blaming that, short rest, bad decisions, he doesn't do that.
No, he's a media manager's wet dream. I mean, the guy, every time he's on TV, whether it's a win or a loss, dude is just crushing interviews, and he definitely has a career after football in media management for athletes. Because
and if that were all it was, then that's fine. But I mean, I think he's backing up his play on the field.
Oh, he is this season.
He says that they need to work harder and they need to play as a team, and then he's back defending and doing plays that he never would have made last year. So I mean, I just. He's the total package, Andy.
He is the total package.
I think we should give him a pay raise.
I think that he should be our highest paid player, Mike.
Yeah, I think 140 is starting to make us a wee bit of sense, whereas previously it made absolutely no sense at all. So, so that was Southampton. On to the fifth round, and we will discuss the draw for the FA Cup, because that was a pretty interesting situation. We'll discuss that after Watford, because I like something to pull me back out of the malaise that we're about to get in.
Watford obviously was the worst result possible, but here's what pisses me off, Mike, okay? We go into this match knowing essentially how far behind Chelsea we are. Every year, every single time when there's a chance for Arsenal to top the league or close the gap, we bottle it. You might ask, why is this happening? But don't worry, because Arsenal will always fucking say the same thing. We were not mentally ready. How are we not fucking mentally ready? We know how far behind Chelsea are. We know that they're going to Liverpool, and there's a good chance they're going to drop points. So how is he not fucking mentally ready and gets this team mentally ready? Yet again, we start another game where we let this fucking team look like Barcelona. And all due respect, it's fucking Watford. I mean, that was absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And okay, the first goal,
Kabul.
Well, it's like the first
these
goal.
These guys look like freaking Messi out there.
The first goal, total, just struck of bad fortune, right? Hitting Ramsey's foot. I don't know if Czech yelled for him to not do that or whatever, but going back to the point where he always says we're not mentally ready, then what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, whose job is that?
What is he doing before a match? Because if his job is not to get this, if his job isn't getting this team ready, like you said, whose job is it? And I'm sorry, but fucking same thing again, Groundhog Day, and I'm getting sick and tired of this fucking club being happy with fourth place every goddamn year. And it's just, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, look, I mean, here's the counterpoint in a sense, if I can even put one forward today, which is we've seen some amazingly surprising results with bottom half teams and top half teams. We've seen Swansea go to Liverpool and beat Liverpool. We've seen City and United drop points absurdly and not even in close games. I do buy into the fact that the 20 teams are closer to each other than ever before, and you shouldn't expect that every game you're going to turn up. However, and there's really only one team that has not been susceptible to the complete brain fart and lapse in judgment and talent, and that's Chelsea this season, and that's why they're on top by 9 points.
Because they have a manager who gets them ready tactically before every game.
Well, and that's the difference we have to try to figure out, because look, there's 19 other teams that have completely shit the bed on occasions where you weren't expecting them to. The question is, why does it keep happening to us at the most inopportune times?
Because we don't have a manager that's capable of getting this group of players ready, and ultimately they are professional athletes, and ultimately they should be ready to go. But holy fuck, I mean, the first goal goes in, and the only player on the pitch who seemed to even give a shit was Mustafi. And then the second goal goes in, and again, dude looks like he was about to fucking lose it. And he was part of the problem, but at the end of the day, we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail, he's left for dead because Ramsey's not fucking paying attention. And so I just don't understand how, in this season, we have had such a strong depth in squad. Every game we come out and we are playing like it's 8 versus 11. We literally look terrible in the first 20 minutes. And I just don't understand, after every game we lose, he comes out with the same old, we were not mentally ready. Well, then who the fuck, what is your job then, that guy?
Well, I think it's an honest, yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to say I'm Wenger out, because I'm not. I'm not saying I'm Wenger in, but that's the wrong fucking thing to say coming off of a match when we're losing and we play as dire as we did. You can't keep coming out and saying that shit. If you're going to do that, you got to come out and put your hand up and say, I'm not doing my job.
Well, here's what I'm curious about, because I have, and I did it after the Man City game. I've railed on Arsene Wenger the hardest, not for these performances, but for kind of copping out to these performances by blaming short rest like he did in the Bournemouth game, blaming refereeing decisions. As far as I'm aware, he didn't do that today. He came out and said that the team wasn't ready and didn't claim like we were cheated or screwed out of the game. He did say that we were the better team and didn't deserve to lose, and to a certain extent I believe that.
For 45 minutes we were. Yeah,
well, for 75 minutes we were, for 60 minutes we were, but yeah, I mean that should make you look at yourself even harder. That keeps happening. But so today he didn't blame external forces. He blamed internal forces for that, but why is it happening? Does he at all have an explanation for why this keeps happening? Because he should think about the number of times that he's had to say we were not mentally ready, just like you said. And what's the constant? What is the constant?
Him.
It's him.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to go off on a tangent, but I'm just getting so sick of it because the constant is always the same. And I know that we've got fans here that are going to probably either turn off the podcast or get pissed because they're like, well, those two guys hate him. We don't. We love him.
No, I want him to come back next season, but I want this situation to stop happening.
Absolutely.
I don't expect first place. I don't demand first place. I don't think it's realistic. Yes, no first place in 13 or 14 years. It's difficult. It's frustrating, but I'm willing to understand that, in sports, you don't win the championship every year. Certainly doesn't happen in any other sport that that I'm a fan of.
But the expectation is that you fight. The expectation for our team, we're not Everton. So the expectation for Everton and Arsenal are two completely different things. But with Arsenal, the expectation is you're going to fight for the title. And it just seems, and we've seen it year after year now, the same shit happens. And you're right, there's a constant. And if he came out and said, this is where we messed up, we don't have depth, Xhaka was suspended, El Nini is gone, and we just don't have the right team in play, that's one thing. But stop saying the same shit over and over again, we weren't mentally there. Because you're right, Mike, it's him not doing his job.
Well, I frankly applaud him for saying that today. I disagree with you, Andy, on that. I applaud him for saying that. I de-applaud him for having to say it.
Well, but
I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear excuses about depth. I don't want to hear excuses about rest. I don't want to hear excuses about flights. I don't want to hear excuses about refs. I want to hear what they need to do better, and to avoid this keep happening. And you're not going to win every game, but you shouldn't lose every game for the same reason.
Well, and so you look at our lineup. From recent performances, there was no reason to warrant that starting 11 because at the weekend, Theo bags a hat-trick, but yet he starts on the bench. And
that's pretty much a guarantee. I mean, if you score a hat-trick for Arsenal this season, you're going to start the next game. You're not starting the next game. That's
so when you look at it,
for some reason, a thing now.
I understand why Danny, because you can argue, well, Danny scored 2, but he's coming off of a very long injury. But Theo is probably going into that game on such a high. The Ox is going into that game on such a high because they played so well. And we go in and we play Giroud up front, and I'm just thinking, what has he done apart from a couple 80th-plus minute goals that's warranted him a starting position over Theo? And I know it changes our formation, but if Theo is having a tear and you're thinking, all right, dude's on form, then you got to put him on the right, you got to put Iwobi on the left, and you got to put Sanchez up front. And I just don't understand why we're not playing players when they are hitting form. And God knows Theo loves to get injured, so we got to utilize him as best we can when we've got him, right?
Well, and the question is, though, I mean, having just came back from injury, is playing 3 consecutive games, the entire game, the best way of? I mean, is it? He's not coming back from the Welbeck type of injury, but I didn't expect to see the same front 3 that we did against Southampton. I actually thought that the lineup that they put out today, with the exception of Gabriel and the right back, and I said, and I will stick to it. Although today, not so easy. I'm comfortable with Gabriel as a backup right back.
Well, today you saw Watford had one plan from the first minute, and that was
attack that side.
And what really,
Gabriel got caught going forward way too much. He's not Bellerin.
Well, no, he's not. And we've talked about it before. He's never really gone forward, so maybe he's just getting comfortable in that position. The whole Bellerin thing, I don't understand. If you're healthy enough to be on the bench, you should be healthy enough to play or start a match. Because at the end of the day, if he went down in the second minute, who are we subbing on?
Yeah.
It's not like in the second minute we would have went, oh, shit, well, Bellerin's not actually that fit, so we're going to have to move things around. No, if he would have went down, he would have played. So he should have started the match. And Watford came out, and they picked on that side, and we did nothing to counter what was happening. And you could see clearly the first 15 minutes they wanted to pound him as much as possible, right? And no one thought, oh, we have a central defensive midfielder that's playing too high up the pitch. Why doesn't he drop back and offer some support? It's just another one of those tactical issues that's gone awry. And I know we're getting off point here because we do have discussions. But
I thought that the lineup was understandable given the importance of the game on Saturday, given the fact that, Saturday we needed to go with just absolute speed, and I would hope to see Welbeck, Alexis, and Theo, across the front with Mesut on Saturday. So I didn't think it was horrible to get Giroud some game time, but they game planned for it and they played us, and within 20 minutes we looked like chumps with that lineup.
So here's something. I'm just on Twitter, and the Miami podcast, who are friends of ours, have put up some pictures, right? So before the match, Arson says the players are prepared and mentally focused to deal with the challenges we will face. After the match, we're not mentally ready for today's game. So what the fuck is it?
Yeah, I mean, he must not know what mentally ready is. I mean, I have no explanation for that.
All right. Well, let's move on. And let's diagnose this game a little bit. And so Ramsey's injury.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering at the minute before he got injured, I was wondering whether the tactical change to put Ox in for him was something that they really needed to consider sooner rather than later, because Ramsey he had a shocking first 20 minutes. The own goal. I'm not skilled enough at analyzing football to know whether he could have known anything about that. I'd venture to say no. Does a dead celebrity come back to life if he scores an own goal? Is that a thing?
I think it's 2 dead celebrities.
Oh, nice.
The only way that, your reaction when that ball's coming at you that fast is to try and block it. The way that he kind of made the smallest movement, I fear that Czech probably called, and he was already in the movement of trying to block it, and Czech said leave it, and then by that time it was too late. But the second goal was fucking atrocious, because it started with Gabriel throwing the ball to Ramsey, who clearly wasn't paying attention. Ultimately not a great throw, but these are players who can control the ball with every bit of their body, and he looked like a ballerina flying through the air trying to get that. And from that point on, he just then jogs. Like, he doesn't think to himself, shit, I need to get on my horse here and get back. He just thinks, oh, defenders have got it. And unfortunately for Mustafi, he played a little bit of shit defense, but he was also on his back heels. He wasn't fully aware of what was happening and at the speed it was happening. And it would have been nice if Ramsey would have gone on his horse and at least tried to get back and help.
Yeah, I mean, they just look like they were just lead-footed. On their back foot is probably a good description. But, I mean, Mustafi just, for whatever reason, he was made to look awfully foolish in that situation. And you just can't give that guy that much room and that much space to get in on goal. Credit to Czech for a good save.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That rebound's always going to be there.
But if you're Mustafi and a player's running at you full steam –
and you're in the box.
Exactly. What option do you have? You're either going down and getting a penalty and a red, or you're trying to stay on your feet and you're made to look foolish like he was. So I feel terrible for him. But for me, that the fault solely lies on number 8, and I don't understand why number 8 continues to start every match, because his form doesn't warrant it.
Well, guess what? I don't think he's going to be starting the next match.
Well, and I, as I said to you, I don't think Ramsey knows the difference between being hurt and being injured. Because the moment he went down, he pointed to his calf, and it was like, oh, I'm already subbed.
Yeah.
And most players will jump up and they'll be like, give me a minute, and then, but that guy, he's a fucking pussy. What?
This is coming right out and saying it.
Why not?
I don't know.
Do you think Gabriel would go down and do that? No.
Well, he's had 5 or 6 facial injuries, which have led to him looking the way that he does, and he keeps getting up every time.
Exactly. And as much as we moan about Giroud going down, he'll go down, but he'll continue. He'll try. He'll at least try and run it off.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out probably in the next few days whether there's cause for that kind of criticism or not, I suppose. But he could be fine for the next game, or we could have seen the last of him for this season. Who knows?
Monreal.
I just don't know. And frankly, at that moment in the game,
it was good that he went off.
From a tactical standpoint, it was good that he went off. Not saying it was good he got hurt.
No. We never want a player to get hurt, but it was good that he went off.
And frankly, I think the game kind of changed from that point. Interestingly so. But Gabriel had a challenge in the 21st minute, and I don't remember whether this was before or after Ramsey went off, but he had a challenge that was, it was late, it was rash. I was almost concerned he was going to get a red on it. Ultimately, he got a yellow, but it just kind of, to me, it crystallizes the fact that the team was just losing their composure. They had no idea. It wasn't that they were lazy. They looked concerned. They looked panicked. They looked like they were affected, more so than I think when they went down 2-0 against Bournemouth. So is that a lack of composure and calm, or is it them recognizing, hey, we got to do something? But it just looked like they were all discombobulated.
What bothers me with this team is when we do go down 1-0, 2-0, there's part of me that says this is a squad that can bring that back, right? We did it against Bournemouth, but even when the second goal went in, I thought, okay, we started off poorly, but if we get a goal back in the next 20 minutes, it's game on. You're right. We look so hectic out there, and the difference between the likes of the Arsenal against, if you put us up against the Chelseas, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, even when they go 1 or 2 goals down, they're calm and they're composed, and they work themselves back into the game. But you're right. We just look like 11 men who just decided to just run around frantically, not aware of what was happening. And again, there's no backup tactic. There's no, if we go down, this is what we need to do, right? And I had said right on the stroke of halftime, for me, Giroud needed to come off. Ozil needed to drop deeper and search for the ball and create an attack from deep. And Coughlin needed to come back and drop in front of our defense just to help them out, settle things down. Yeah. But we didn't do anything. We didn't change anything. It was just we're just going to run around and we're going to just give the ball to Sanchez and he's going to try and dribble through everyone and take a shot. And it's I wish we had that composure. I wish someone would come off the bench and just say, boys, slow down. Ozil, drop deep and help them work out of defense a little bit.
You could see that after halftime, where there's 15 minutes or so to discuss and collect yourself, that the urgency turned into a little bit more refined pressure and control, rather than just this manic situation like the last 20 minutes of the first half was, where everyone was just, the rain didn't help, but people were just falling all over the place, overrunning balls, passing it behind people. It just looked like a team that was completely out of sync. After halftime, completely different.
Oh, yeah, but it shouldn't take halftime.
Right. Can it happen in game?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Good managers can tell a team, hey, here's a scenario. If we go up 1-0, continue the press, read the game. Or, hey, if we go down 1 or 2-0, composure. And it doesn't need to be a set tactic before the match, but someone can get off the bench and yell to 2 or 3 players, here's what we need to do, right? And we, as I said before, if you're a manager and you spot Gabriel absolutely getting dusted and they're pounding that side of the field, then someone's going to come over and help. And unfortunately, Iwobi wasn't dropping. So why didn't Coughlin get instructed to come back and help? It's just like there was no in-game tactics, and we don't see it very often, but you think Bold would have jumped up or someone would have jumped up and just yelled to a few players, hey, we're down 2-0, this is what we need to do.
It's more like, let's just keep the same game plan, but rush it.
Absolutely, and that's
because
not
we
good.
need to catch up. And
right.
That's not as effective as making an adjustment to overcome things. Now, again, in the second half, Alexis penalty shout on him that goes without a whistle, and then literally within 15 seconds he's back up, dancing brilliantly down the baseline once again. To pass to Iwobi, who scores a goal that seemed very, very similar to another goal that he scored, I think, with his head the first time, but just putting it back against the front of the goal into the side netting. And from that point on, given that there were still 40 minutes, including injury time, left in the game, it was game on.
Oh, absolutely. I completely thought the turnaround was happening because we did look so good going out in that second half. I was kind of concerned, Mike, that, in the 55th minute, we're knocking on the door, and it was before the goal, but Gomez spills a shot, and the only player up front that's going in for the ball is Nacho.
He's our new number 9.
And I was just thinking, where are the rest of our fucking attacking players? Because and then it happened at the end of the game too, where Gomez dives on the ball and it's right in front of him. God. And Nacho is there again. It's just where are – because –
You said that at the moment in the 55th minute, and then at the end of the game, when I just my head in my hands watching how it was ending, I saw Nacho again, like almost getting the rebound. I'm like, he's going to be throwing his computer through the window.
Oh my God! But credit to Giroud, that's usually where he nips in those goals, right?
It kind of felt like this game, Giroud's timing got flip-flopped. He needed to be sitting the first half and in the second half.
That's why I was saying there's no reason for him to be starting this match because. Yeah. As frustrating as he is as a player, this is the type of game where you want to ram speed down Watford's throats, and then Giroud is just such a great impact player. And when we have a team and we're fully healthy, we can rely on him coming off the bench, and it doesn't seem like he cares.
Well, and it's almost like Giroud and Alexis are the only two choices for that number 9, and really they don't have to be anymore. Even if you say Welbeck is not available at all today, Lucas can play that position. He was brought here to play that position, I thought. But I assumed Giroud would start today because I didn't think that Alexis would play up top against this team, mostly because I didn't think Welbeck or Lucas would get into the game, and that places Alexis on the wings. But it really didn't have to be that way. You could have had Giroud sit at an impact sub and still not had Alexis up top.
I don't know what Lucas is doing in training to not warrant more starts in the league.
He's smoking. Must be.
But seriously, it's outside of today, what other match has Lucas played in this season where he hasn't made an impact?
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know.
He's done well with a limited sample size. That's for sure. And it just seems like he's the last ditch rather than, and again today they bring him on for Coquelin. Mm-hmm. And I'm scratching my head saying, I understand we're in a desperation phase right now, but like, what is our formation right now? Is it Ox and Iwobi in the midfield? We've gone from Xhaka Kaka or whatever to Ramcock to Shaq Zorla and now it's Ox and Ox and Iwobi.
But the problem now, Mike, is with Ramsey possibly being injured, we've got one true central midfielder for the next 2 matches with Xhaka's suspension, and so you've got the Coquelin. It's
going to be the Cockox. Oxcock is Cockox.
I like Cockox better.
Yeah, Cockox. It's that bone
your butt bone.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, and I'm not sure why we're not calling Mr. Jack Wilshere back from loan. I don't know if we have it.
Yes, we can't. It's been well established that there's no recall.
Who's established that?
The media, the liberal media. Everybody. I mean, it's an established fact. There's not a recall clause. That's why Ake was able to get called back, but Wilshere can't because I believe it was said that that the loan wasn't going to happen if we could have recalled him halfway through the season. Now you can blame Arsenal's contract people for that. I don't know if that's Dick Law's job or not, but I just wanted to say his name. He's not coming back this season. It's not even an option.
Yeah.
We'll see Ainsley Maitland-Niles in that position in an important league game before we'll see Jack Wilshere.
Well, that's what frustrated me today was seeing him on the bench because I'm thinking to myself, is that the best we have right now?
Well, I mean, we're 3 men down right now.
Well, it's January. Then fucking
and Elneny's not even coming back when he comes back.
No, because he's hurt.
Apparently, he's gotten hurt in Africa. So it's a little bit of a shambles right now, but at least the selection nightmare is being made easier. But yeah, the formation it all looked kind of desperate. I mean, we were pouring it on for pretty much the entire second half, but a couple really good saves from Gomez, who has never been particularly impressive when I've seen him play. But of course, that's what we do to opposing team goaltenders. And too much passing the ball into the net for a team that was trying to make a comeback. Nobody filling in the box for crosses. It just looked like the same issues over and over again. And that second goal that you were expecting to see just never materialized.
No. It's a tough one, Mike. It's a real tough one. And credit to Watford because they came out with a game plan and their game plan worked. And unfortunately, I feel like this is the dagger in our backs, and I feel like the opportunity to get points where Chelsea is dropping them, I just think the league is too far away now. And I don't say that because it's mathematically, yes, but look how we played against Everton, Bournemouth, now Watford. I just don't see this team being able to catch up on points and then overtake because you also have to look at the likes of Tottenham, Liverpool, and we've let City and United back into this chase as well. And there's just too many variables, and I don't see this Arsenal team under this management capable of running the table.
Yeah, kind of sick of it. But there's 15 games left. We're 9 points back with a game against Chelsea this weekend. For me personally, I'm not going to get wrapped up in is it over or is it not for the next 4 days because, we're going to find out whether it's over or not in 4 days.
But we're the only team that will lose to Watford and probably go and beat Chelsea.
And in the same regards, beat Bayern Munich and lose to Sutton in the same week.
Well, speaking of Sutton, Mike, let's move on. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Yes. Please drag me out of this sand pit.
Out of this funk. Now, FA Cup, 5th round draw. It was funny. So we were watching the Sutton match before we went skiing this weekend, and I had a bunch of friends, and not all of them follow football, and so I was kind of.
Did my butler have a good time with you guys?
Yeah, I was explaining to them a little bit about Sutton, and then I turned to my friend who's a West Ham supporter, and I went, "Hey, I'd love to get them in the next round." And lo and behold, we got the draw. And I'm absolutely I love the fact that we're playing them away.
I mean, it couldn't have asked for a better draw. Sutton, a few things about Sutton. And I mean, this is the magic of the FA Cup. It's hard not to like this for now. When the game gets closer, I will find many ways not to like this. But they're outside of the 92-team FA division structure in a league called the Vanarama or Valderrama, or whatever it is, that National League. And last year they weren't even in that division. They were promoted from the 6th tier of English football. And they're 16th right now in that division. So basically, they're just the 108th ranked team in the English FA system at the moment.
Nice.
They're currently 5 spots behind Boreham Wood, which is the team that lends their stadium to the Arsenal youth teams to play their home games. I've actually been there. The locker room is like next to the men's bathroom that the fans use. It's amazing. But they're 5 spots behind them. They actually have a big game coming up against them this weekend. In the last 2 weeks, they've lost to Braintree. They tied Eastleigh. Then they beat Leeds United. Which, I mean, it's just the range from one end to the other. Earlier this year, they lost to North Ferriby United, which is another semi-professional team. I mean, this is a team that is in the final 16 of the FA Cup. And within 3 or 4 days next month, we're going to be playing Bayern Munich away on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember, followed by Sutton Town away 3 or 4 days later. Has anything like that ever happened?
No, this is the glory of the FA Cup. I mean, it's absolutely wonderful that the team get the opportunity. I feel a little bit sad that they didn't get an away draw because they would have taken 50% of our gate, which I'm sure would have kept their club afloat for a couple more seasons.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they get to play the Arsenal, and this will probably be the biggest match in their history.
I've heard some stories. You know, I've seen both ways. One where they say there's no truth to this at all, but one also where they're saying they might ask for the game to be played at Crystal Palace, not at the Emirates, because I don't think you can even do that anymore. That used to be the case.
Yeah, you can't.
And there was a similar type of draw against a team. I can't even remember. Their name starts with an F, but back 20, 30 years ago. And they did switch it, I think, to Highbury.
Yep.
I mean, have you seen their away stand? Have you seen those pictures of their away stand?
Yeah. I mean, their stadium holds just over 5,000 capacity. I think 700 of those are seated seats, and then the rest is standing room only. Now, Leeds got, from what I read, just over 1,000 away supporters. So with it being South London, I'm sure that if we get that allotment, we're going to be sending a good crew of folk. But I just think this is one of those games where I'm comfortable in saying if we went out with that same lineup against Southampton, we could easily put 8 to 10 in the back of the net. I mean, but...
at what point in the game does your sphincter start to
third
when it's
minute.
0-0?
Third minute.
Third minute?
Third minute.
I'm thinking 23rd minute, but it's the first thing I thought about was the field quality, and it looks like it's actually it's either some sort of synthetic field, or I mean it's field quality in the Bradford sense. That was just a nightmare, that field up in Bradford a few seasons ago. That I don't think is going to be an issue here, but it's just, it should be awfully interesting. I can't say I'm not a little worried about it, especially because of all the jokes and the bravado that are coming out of of Arsenal Twitter about how about this game. But I have to say, Sutton United, I love an underdog, and I'm just a huge fan of what they've accomplished here. their backup goaltender. If you Wayne Shaw, I've fallen in love with this guy essentially because I could be him. He's 2 years older than me, and he's still on an active roster. It could be called into a game at any time. He's probably about the same weight as I am. The guy is just my hero, and I unsuccessfully have been trying to tweet at him today to see if he would join us on our podcast. I'm sure he's a little bit busy right now, but my tweets have gone unanswered. But there are tweets that have gone answered, Andy. So tell us about those.
Yeah, so we are going to have next week, I believe, or this weekend, we're going to be joined by Gandermonium, and they are a non-league podcast. They call themselves the Idiots Talking Bollocks about mostly football and mainly Sutton United.
That sounds awfully like two American gits
seriously
like Fritz and twats talking about Arsenal stuff.
Yeah, no, and we're totally getting them on the pod to have like a genuine fun conversation about just their views on drawing a team of our stature, and we assume that they're all like absolutely and just over the moon about it, but maybe they aren't. So we're going to get them on. We're going to hear a little bit more about the club Sutton, and then kind of their take on the fixture, and then who knows, maybe they'll join us after the match as well. And I think those guys all go to the games as well. And they actually retweeted today that it's clear that Arsenal are unnerved about already facing the prospect of a trip to West Sutton. So they seem
were we looking past Watford to the Sutton game and overlooking things? It could be.
But they seem like genuinely like funny dudes, and so we're going to get them on the pod and have some good banter, I'm sure.
I think you probably have to be a pretty funny dude in order to be a non-league football supporter. And I've got a ton of questions. I just, if you're a Sutton supporter, is that the only team you support, or do you have a Premier League team or an upper division team, but Sutton's your local team, and so you go to those games? I mean, it's kind of like how I'm a DC United supporter, but really because they're my local team, and I've been here and I could take my son to the games because it's not as easy to get over to London. I'm fascinated to find out what being a non-league supporter is like, because
we'll find out. We'll find out. So, Mike, here's a question for you. Okay, so I was listening to TalkSport last night after the draw, and they were asking the question, would you rather win the FA Cup or finish in fourth place? So I'm going to ask you the question: would you rather win the FA Cup or finish in fourth place?
Well, this was certainly the topic of questions when we actually won the FA Cup and finished in, I think, fourth place the first time.
But you don't get both; you only get one. So would you rather finish in fourth or win the FA Cup?
At this moment in time, when we have the management situation we do and the changes on the horizon, it's a hard question, because you got to add in the situation about trying to attract top talent in the summer and re-signing Alex.
No. So here you go, Mike. Before you even say any of that, what are we doing to attract top talent? What top talent are we attracting? In the last 5 years, right? Sanchez and Ozil. But what other top talent are we attracting by finishing in fourth? We keep hearing that same rhetoric. Oh, we're going to attract top talent. Who are we attracting? It would be attractive to a player to come to Arsenal because they get to play in Champions League every match. But we don't actively go out to attract those players. So in this current scenario, would you rather win the FA Cup or finish in fourth?
Oh, boy. I think I'd rather win the FA Cup, and I just send Arsene Wenger off in a respectful way with a trophy, finish fifth or sixth, get someone who has a new attitude, with this team and try to do what the other teams have done? I'm struggling to answer this, Andy, because I've never really had to consider the reality of finishing outside the top four.
Well, no, but like
an FA Cup does nothing for us. I understand that,
but it does though, Mike. It gives us a trophy, and that's the problem, right? We have become so fascinated with the Champions League, which we do nothing in. The same thing every year out at the round of 16, that this is a trophy that has lost its allure and love affair with the English population, and now it's bred over to the supporters in America, where they go, well, it's not that big of a trophy. But back in the day, even when you used to live there, it was huge. But the way I look at it is, when you start a season, you want silverware, you want a cup, right? The fourth place finish only is a cup to 4 people at the Arsenal, because it puts money in the bank account. And if we went off and we attracted the likes of a Griezmann, or if we attracted the likes of Aguero 5-10 years ago, when he was an up-and-coming player, or Hazard, because that was the type of player that we were linked with but we never purchased, I could say, we're in the Champions League every year. That player wants to come here. But we won't go out and get those players, right?
Well, and here's why, because those players are going to go to one of two types of teams, or one that's both. They're either going to go to a team that has won their league or the Champions League, or they're going to go to a team that pays them 60% higher wages than anybody else is willing to pay, i.e. Manchester United. If we're talking about Griezmann, and we're talking about who's the other one that everyone keeps talking about, Marco Reus. Yeah. If we're talking about those guys, unless there's some significant countrymen, discussions from the other players on the team, recruitment and that sort of thing, which we always seem to get outpaced by other teams who do that. Those guys might be pipe dreams until we win something.
See, I don't think.
But I'm worried about, and I'm contradicting my earlier answer now, but what I'm worried about is that, unlike Liverpool, well, not a good example, unlike Manchester United and Manchester City, the financial impact on this team of finishing outside the top 4, I do not think will be met with a renewed invigoration to get us back there. I think it'll be met with proportional cuts on our wage bill, on our wage packets, and on our transfers, and on our willingness to overpay to keep someone like Alexis. And my worry is that, if they can make the budget work on a 7th place income instead of a 3rd or 4th place income, they'll do it. And we'll have to luck back into the top 4. And it shouldn't be that way, but my concern with the current board and the management is that it would be. So perhaps, as much as I hate to say it, you got to focus on consolidating into the top 4. I hate to say that, but that's a horrible choice to have to make between those two.
Well, so I agree with you and I disagree with you. I disagree with the fact that those players would only go to a certain type of club. The only reason they wouldn't come to us is because we're not in for them. So let's take the Ox, right, or Ramsey. We put so much investment into those players, we don't sign other players. We talked about it when Kirsch was on the podcast, right? Verratti, for example. We'd never try and go and sign him because he would hinder the forward progress of a Ramsey-like player. We need a manager that will seek a young Eden Hazard, who will seek a young Aguero, who we were linked with 8-9 years ago, but thought to ourselves, well, we've got these other players. We need a manager who will come in and go, well, hey, if the Ox is good enough, if Ramsey's good enough, they will prove me wrong, right? We need a player or a manager who's going to go out there and say, I'm going to spend that money year after year. And here's the thing, Mike. Imagine adding a Marco Reus or a Griezmann to this current team. We would be challenging for a title. So they would be coming to a team that would be challenging for the title. But going back to the whole 4th place or FA Cup, for me, you want silverware. And we had such a fun 2 seasons being able to say we were the FA Cup winners that I would take that right now over a fourth-place finish, because what does it give us? A couple extra nights in Europe, and then we're all pissed off come February? I mean, it's the same thing over and over again, right?
Well, the danger is of finishing 5th or 6th and ending up in the Europa League.
But again, that's fine. Maybe we'll do something in the Europa League. But we don't have the team good enough right now to challenge for a Champions League, because we're only content, our board is only content with finishing in 4th because it puts money in the bank. Had they invested some of that money, maybe we would go over that hump. Now, I agree with what you're saying. If we drop out, what does that do for the team? I don't think it financially hits us as big as people think, because we haven't spent enough money in the past, right? So I think
our wage bill is fairly high. I mean, not in a United sense, but I mean we have.
But that's because we're paying the likes of Theo Walcott $140,000. And jokes aside, did he deserve $140,000 the last couple seasons? No. Is he playing like £140,000 player a week this season? Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
But we could cut some of these players, Deadwood. I don't know how many more seasons we have to give Ramsey the opportunity to show us he's world class. You know? So what if we cut his wage bill and we brought in a younger player? I don't know how much certain players are on, but at the end of the day, I feel like if you look at the two options, Mike, I think you would take an FA Cup right now, because we want to be happy. We want silverware, we want a cup.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about this year by itself, then I think absolutely. My concern goes into next year. But I'm the most indecisive person there is. I don't know how I feel about Wenger in and out. It just changes from one week to the next.
It does for me too.
I just want to close my eyes and go into the fetal position and get the FA Cup and top 4, preferably a lot better than top 4, and and that's really just what the hope is. It's just there is no solution, because you don't know what's on the other side of the door.
No, you don't. You
just don't. If you knew what was on the other side of the door, or had any clue of what was on the other side of the door, it would obviously be an easier decision to make. And I've been a supporter long enough, and certainly considering I really became quite active again in 2006. It's not like I have this built-in need and demand to win a trophy in the sense of a championship or a Champions League every year. I've been going this far without one at all since I came back, other than FA Cups. But something needs to change. But I fear the intermediary period, and I know that a lot of other people do not share that, where they say it's better to be awful for 3 or 4 years, go through a complete cleansing, and then start building the arsenal again. But until ownership changes, that's my worry.
Well, ownership's not going to change, because he runs every sports franchise like a business.
Right. So we could end up being.
The only way it changes is if we significantly. No, the only way it changes is if we consistently finish 10th through 15th, and the money isn't. It's not there, because then he can sell the club and bring in the likes of a Roman Abramovich who treat the club as a hobby rather than a business. And I don't agree with that personally, but at the end of the day, you're right. There's going to be a pretty shitty unknown coming, whether it's next season or in 2 or 3 seasons from now. But it's Groundhog's Day again, Mike. We're beating the same dead horse we have been the last 10 years. And I fear that there's time for change. And for all those fans who come out and say, that's absolutely ridiculous, he's always giving us what we want. Well, he's not. Because what we want, we're the Arsenal. We expect a run again for the league, and we expect another trophy. And that's what the expectation was in the early 2000s. That's what the expectation was in the 90s. You made a run for the league, and if you were there or thereabouts, you were finishing with an FA Cup or possibly an EFL Cup. And so, yeah, it's a good question, and I'd love to ask. Maybe we put a Twitter poll up. I want to hear what our listeners think. FA Cup or 4th place.
Well, it'll start a lot of the very, very familiar debate and discussions that we've seen over and over again. And I just, we are the Arsenal, Andy, and whatever will be, will be. I'm not going anywhere. That's all I got to say.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
So, and speaking of not going anywhere, the Pick'ems, the only place I'm going is down in this situation. We're still waiting on 2 results from this week's midweek matches, but Andy, you're back on top. How does that feel?
Mike, it's where I usually like to be on top.
I've heard that. So yes, you have retaken the lead with 54. You got all 3 of today's games right. The guest spot, which was filled by AJ from Full 90 Gooners last week, who got all 3 games today wrong. Sorry, AJ. Experience over youth in this case. He has 53 points, and I am pulling up the rear at 49 yet again. So our guest picker this week, last week we mentioned we picked up our 59th country, which was Estonia, and no more than 24 hours later we got a tweet from our Estonian listener, which is just, that Twitter machine just boggles my mind how that works. But at Taniel Komus, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, TAANIELKOMMUS from Tallinn, Estonia. Not only did he reach out to us and tell us he was enjoying the podcast, but he also pointed out that we failed to recognize Estonian Arsenal legend Mark Poom. Now, Andy, you're a goaltender. You're a goaltender, and you're an Estonian Estoniophile. So how did you overlook that?
I was in Canada mourning the death of my uncle.
Oh, okay. Well,
I didn't know he was Estonian.
Yeah, he's I think he had a cup of coffee with Arsenal. I think he came into a League Cup game and might have even started a league game the end of that 2006 season, heading into the Champions League final. He was like the 3rd choice keeper behind Lehmann and Almunia.
Yeah.
But so yes, we do have an Estonian. So thank you, Daniel, and also he is our guest picker for this week. So we put together some picks. Let's start with Bournemouth at Everton, which is our shit game of the week. Because I'm now having to begin, I will tell you that Everton is very good at home. They are shit on the road. So basically, they're the Liverpudlian version of Burnley. I'm going to go 3-1 to Everton.
Wow.
Andy, what do you got?
I'm going to go 1-1 draw on this one, Mike.
Okay. All right. And Daniel has 2-1 Everton with Lukaku to score the winner. So we will keep that in mind. Liverpool at Hull. Apparently, Jurgen Klopp is suddenly the worst manager in the history of the Premier League. Either that or it finally caught up with him that his players just kind of suck. Except Ragnar Klavan, of course. Ragnar Klavan is the best player in the history of Estonian football. So we'll just mention that. Hull presents an opportunity to get healthy again for Liverpool, but they won't. 2-2, Liverpool and Hull. And for you?
Yeah, there's no way that Liverpool are going to beat Hull. I'm going to say 1-0 Liverpool.
Okay, and Daniel has it as 3-2 Liverpool, and he actually picks Klavan Ragnar, who I believe called Ragnar Klavan before. Scoring a last-minute header for the win, and then says he's just messing around because he probably won't even be in the squad. But there will be a Milner penalty and a goal from Firmino in there somewhere. So 3-2 Liverpool. Man U at Leicester.
Ooh, this is a tough one, Mike.
It's a matchup of champion versus mid-table also-ran. In this case, I think the also-ran will come out on top, so it's going to be United 3, Leicester 2.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't ever look at these beforehand, so I'm like thinking I'm going to go 2-0 United.
Okay. And Daniel has a 1-1 draw with Zlatan to score for United. That's a tough call. After the game, at the press conference, Mourinho is still adamant that they didn't lose, which technically is true. I mean, if it's a draw. So 1-1 draw there. last two games, Swansea at Man City. Now, Swansea, Andy, are the hottest team in the Premier League, actually one of two hottest teams. And I'm not basing that on statistics. I'm just basing that on the eye test. Do you know who the other hottest team in the Premier League is?
You tell me.
I would say West Ham, although I don't know if they played today or not. But the post-Dimitri Payet West Ham seems to be tearing it up. But Swansea, I still have them pegged for the Europa League. Earlier in the month, they walked into Anfield and knocked off Liverpool, which is something usually only reserved for teams like Wolves. But can they knock off City? No. 3-0 to City.
I'm going to go, Mike, I'm going to go 4-0 City.
You keep blocking me out. I'm not going to. How am I supposed to pick up points on you this way if you don't take Swansea? 3-1 City for Daniel De Bruyne to get a goal at some point. I'm assuming some point during the game. Arsenal at Chelsea. And, dude, if there's one thing I know for sure about this game, I don't know much about what this game is going to turn into, but one thing I do know is that Martin Atkinson is going to be the ref.
Yep.
So my self-medication regimen begins on Thursday in preparation for this. He's good for at least 2 goals for Chelsea. So, I'm going to have to go 2-1 to Chelsea and just pray that I'm wrong. But, I mean, we'll find out early on in this game, I think, what the rest of our podcasts this year are going to be like.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
You going to do it?
2-0 Chelsea. I don't see us playing. I just don't see us playing well. They're just so high and riding on confidence. Even though they went to Liverpool and drew today, that's not a hard or an easy place to go and play. And I want to tell Daniel that quickly here, Mike, since we're talking about the Arsenal game, there is a Finnish hockey player who plays for the Avs called Mikko Rantanen, and he's, I think, 19, 20, and he is like the expectation to be like a real up-and-coming player. But did you know that he is a diehard Arsenal fan as well?
Really? And the fact that he's Finnish makes it relevant to this conversation how?
Because isn't Daniel from Finland?
He's from Estonia, you jackass. I'm like sitting here while you dig your own grave. Do you listen to our own podcast?
I'm just going to edit that out.
I kind of like it in there, though.
No.
Oh, God, at least I'm smiling now. I wasn't smiling earlier. Oh, God. All right, well, what was the last thing?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. And Daniel has it at 2-2. Actually, he's the most optimistic of the three of us. Daniel from Estonia has Chelsea to score first. Alexis gets us back in the game. A penalty, of course, for Chelsea. I mean, that's a given with Martin Atkinson there. But a late equalizer from Theo will get us a hard-won draw. So optimistic Daniel from Estonia. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much to our Estonian listeners. Andy, he's from Estonia.
I understand that, Mike. Thank you.
You know where Estonia is actually one of the countries that I believe some of my distant ancestry comes from, but I'm going to verify that because I got talked into getting one of those 23andMe things, and I'm probably going to find out that I'm from the Dominican Republic or something like that. But yeah, so I have special ties to Estonia, and thank you to Daniel for coming out of the woodwork and saying hi to us. And that's our picks. Now, have you ever had a transfer deadline which has passed, and I believe it passed as we were starting this podcast, where you just didn't even pay attention to it?
No, it's weird that this is one of the first ever ones that we haven't been linked with 45 players. So
I mean, there have been deadline days where it was known that we weren't going to sign anybody, but like not deadline months where we knew that and where it was so absolutely sure. I know we loaned out a few players today, one of which not today, but the last couple of days, Gideon Zellum, who just apparently he gave an interview that he's just basically shattered.
From what? Again, from doing what?
from getting loaned to a second division Dutch team rather than given a chance to make it at Arsenal or at least going to a championship team. I mean, this is a Rio Miyachi loan, basically, where you're like, you know what, we're going to cut you loose pretty soon. I think that's getting ready to happen to him. But earlier today, I retweeted the news that Emmanuel Adebayor had signed on a free transfer with some Turkish team that I'd never heard of, but they're actually second in the Super League right now. Super League. I'm sure Chris from ABW has bobbleheads and dossiers on every person on the team, but normal people have never heard of this team. But it occurred to me that how Adebayor it would have been for him to sign for free with Sutton United right before deadline day in some lame attempt to try to take the piss out of Arsenal. I mean, of course, he would have had to have played for like 2 or 3 games with them before facing us, but that would have been totally Adebayor. And then I got a tweet from James Co. at Lostless, who is a hilarious guy that I banter with frequently on Twitter, who says that there should be like an all-time 11 for whatever the opposite of a testimonial is, which I immediately named as a tosser-monial. Where you just get all-time 11 tossers from Arsenal, people who just screwed us over, sucked, horrible people, whatever the case, and they just stand there on the Emirates pitch and get mercilessly booed for 90 minutes by 60,000 people. So I'll be getting to work on that soon, but if you have any suggestions, listeners, on who should be in that 11, and there's 4 or 5 or 6 obvious ones, but it's the deeper picks, the deep tracks that I'm interested in finding out to fill in some of the positions. Tweet us your suggestions, and we'll read them on the pod. Yeah, we've got a big weekend, Chelsea game. I have nothing to say about the Chelsea game until it's over.
It's a 5:30 kickoff for me, Mike.
5:30 a.m. Yeah. 7:30 for me. I'll wake up, watch it, go back to sleep, and probably cry myself back to sleep. But we'll see.
Mike, are you crying? No.
No, I have an eye infection.
Go back to sleep.
So yeah, we have 3 more countries this week. We're still spreading worldwide. Although after this week's pod, I think that we'll probably lose a bunch of countries.
Why?
Antigua Barbuda has joined us. What?
I just love how I ask a question and you're like, I'm not even going to talk to you.
What?
I asked why we're going to lose countries.
Oh, I don't know, because I'm not my normally bubbly self today, and bubbles go far. Antigua and Barbuda, the island that played host to my honeymoon, and is home of Marvin McCoy, former youth player for Arsenal in the 90s. That is the best I could do, stringing together Antigua.
Well, he's the one who's listening, so...
Yeah, he is obviously the one that's listening. Dominican Republic is country number 61, so thank you, Big Papi, for that. While you're having your mofongo.
Who in the fuck is Big Papi?
Who in the fuck is Big Papi? David Ortiz? The baseball player? Wow.
I don't watch baseball.
Okay, well, you've just failed your citizenship test, I suppose. You're not going to be welcome in Boston anytime soon.
George will welcome me.
Yeah, well, not so sure anymore. And finally, number 62, Venezuela.
Nice.
So thank you to Solomon Rondon, even though you're on West Brom. We appreciate you listening to our podcast and getting closer and closer to that number 100 spot.
We are getting closer to it, Mike. This is how much support my wife gives me whenever I tell her. I'm like, oh, hey, we were in this new country. She goes, are you sure it's just not someone who already listened to you on vacation?
Actually, that's better than what George told me, which was George actually made a comment about that and said, so the program I have that allows me to manipulate what IP address I log on from is working. And I'm like, is he serious? Because that would explain why we have 62 different countries listening.
Well, let's see if we have some real random ass country next, and if that's the case, we know it's George.
George, make Madagascar tune in this week, and then I'll believe you. But anyway, that puts a bow on a pretty dour week. But hey, you know what? Saturday rolls around. Maybe we pull a miracle out of our ass and show up for that game. Have a nice chat with the boys from Sutton,
Yes.
And we'll be right back on track.
Yeah, Mike, it was a tough pod today, and I apologize for not allowing us to pod immediately after the Southampton match. But, there goes being an Arsenal fan. We're just a sorry, sad bunch.
And in that spirit, come on, you Gooners.